This is Dan Dicks here reporting for Press for Truth, coming at you here today with the good old-fashioned walk and talk vlog. I'd like to wish all the viewers a very happy 4th of July. I'm sure some of you are probably wondering, Dan, aren't you Canadian? Why on earth would you be celebrating the 4th of July today? Well, as it turns out, guys, today actually marks exactly 19 years to the day of doing Press for Truth. I launched my channel on July 4th, 2006, and it's really been a wild ride ever since. And I actually back then thought I was a little bit late to the game, believe it or not, because I had woken up, as we call it, back in the late 90s, and it was around 1998 or so up until the year 2000. I was pretty much doing nothing but consuming information. I read dozens and dozens of books dealing with all the kind of topics that I've been talking about over the years on this channel. I read tons of books and I watched tons of documentary films that were being made even back then to kind of learn about all this stuff. And I did that all the way up until the events of September 11th in 2001. And that's when I kind of made the decision that I got to take this to the next level. You know, it's one thing to just continue to consume information, but now you get to a point where you're like, we got to do something about this. Because it was just the day after 9/11 that I was at my friend's house, and we were watching the news, which obviously at the time was like a 24/7 cycle of just showing the footage of the towers falling over and over and over again. And I remember my friend's girlfriend at the time said, you know what, I wouldn't be surprised if they did that to themselves, the American government. And I remember thinking, wow, that's interesting. And I started looking into the events of that day. I started doing a whole ton of research, and I eventually came to the realization that she's correct. So, you know, I got to start doing something. I got to get active here. So back then, in 2001, I did the only thing I knew to do at the time, which was to look for like-minded people on the internet and try to find some sort of group where, you know, we can start becoming active and enlightening people to some of the things that they were being lied to about. And so back then I found a group online called Toronto 9/11 Truth, and it was made up of a whole bunch of guys and a few girls who were meeting once a week, usually in a restaurant or a bar or somebody's house, and we would discuss some of the things that we've discovered throughout our research, you know, into 9/11, and we'd also start organizing activist events where we would hand out information in the streets. We'd go to downtown Toronto at Yonge and Dundas and hand out flyers with information and DVDs. We'd print off thousands of DVDs pretty much every week and just hand them out for free. And I did that for a few years, and it was great, really. But eventually it got to a point where there was a great deal of infighting within the group. Essentially, when you get that many people working together, you get a lot of different people who have a lot of different ideas about what the solutions ought to be to some of these problems. And on top of that, some of the organizers of this particular group started saying, you know, this is the kind of flyers we can hand out and this is the kind of stuff we can't hand out. We're okay with you handing out DVDs like Loose Change, for example, but we're not okay with you handing out other, you know, DVDs. So they were sort of policing the group, and I didn't really like that. And I realized at that time that I'm going to have to find another group here, or maybe just branch out onto my own. And you know, over the next couple of years, I continued doing my research and I continued looking for other groups. But it was in 2006 when all of a sudden I heard that the Bilderberg group was going to be coming to Ottawa, Canada, which is only like a 6-hour drive for me. So that was the moment I said, this is it. I've been researching these guys, researching them for years. Like, these are the kind of guys I want to expose. This is my opportunity to start, you know, my own thing. And so I launched the channel, and back then I was, you know, a pretty big fan of Alex Jones in the early 2000s. In fact, it was one of his documentary films. I think it was released in the year 2000. It was all about the Bohemian Grove that I watched, and enlightened me to some of the stuff that's happening that needs to be exposed. In case you're not familiar with the Bohemian Grove, this is a group of very powerful and influential men who meet every year in a big redwood forest in secret, and they engage in a mock ritualistic sacrifice of a human effigy that they place on an altar, and they burn it in front of this giant owl god called Moloch. So I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to expose wickedness in high places. And so the motto of the Bohemian Grove was, "Weaving spiders, come not here." So I was like, that's what I'm gonna call my channel, Weaving Spider. I'm coming for you guys. I'm gonna expose what you're doing. So I did just that. I launched the channel. And then sure enough, the Bilderberg group came to Ottawa, Canada. And so I immediately grabbed a camera and I went there to cover my first event as Press for Truth. I ended up running into Alex Jones, who, again, I was a pretty big fan of at the time because he had a big part to do in my awakening process. So I met him there. He ended up interviewing me there for his film, a documentary film titled Endgame. And I was, you know, pretty stoked to make it into the film. So when I got home from that, I was like, okay, it's time to step this up a notch. It's time to launch my own thing. And it was around then that I came up with the name Press for Truth. And obviously, ever since then, it's been an absolutely wild ride. My activism kind of evolved into making documentary films. I ended up making 5 documentary films over the years. One of them was called The Nation's Deathbed. Another one was called United We Fall. I also did the Toronto hearings on 9/11. This was a 6-hour-long DVD, you know, putting out all the information I've learned about 9/11. I did a film called The Turning Point, which was exposing the Bilderberg group directly. And I also did a film called Into the Fire. Into the Fire was my coverage of the G20 that came to Toronto in 2010. That's probably the one I'm most proud of. I directed it and produced it, and in fact did all the music for that. I scored the entire film. In fact, I did the music to all 5 of my documentary films. And if you guys want to see the behind the scenes making of all the soundtracks to all my films, we did put that stuff out years ago. I think if you just search my YouTube channel for the word music, you should be able to find it all. But that was just the natural progression of my research, my activism, and my journalism, was to do that. And so that's what I did for a number of years. And I continued to bang out, you know, daily videos as best as I could, all the way up until 2020, when all of a sudden, out of the blue, without warning, without any community guideline strikes, without any copyright strikes or anything, YouTube decided to terminate my channel. At the flip of the switch, the censors decided they no longer liked what I had to say and the reach that I was getting, and so they killed the channel. And needless to say, it was pretty devastating at the time, because, you know, this was my life's work. You know, all that archived footage was gone, and I decided I'm not going to let this set me back. Obviously, I'm going to continue to press for truth. So I did that, and I decided, well, I'm just going to ramp up my other channels, you know, my Rumble and my BitChute and my Odyssey and Minds and a whole bunch of other platforms that I was already on, decentralized platforms that I decided, let's just focus my energy there. And I did exactly that, and I'm glad I did, because, like, those are far better, you know, platforms than YouTube. But out of the blue, out of nowhere, YouTube decided to reinstate my channel, to my surprise. I got a message through the Team YouTube Twitter account saying, we're very sorry, we've made a huge mistake. We apologize for any inconveniences that you've had. We've reinstated your channel. And I was like completely caught off guard by that. I was like, okay, good, I guess. You know, I'm gonna start using the channel again. And so I did that. That didn't last long though, guys. In November of 2022, once again, all of a sudden, YouTube decided to completely just terminate the channel without warning again. No community guideline strikes, no copyright strikes, just poof, gone. Again, at a flip of the switch, the censors decided it was time to shut me up again. And that's exactly what happened, right on up until 3 weeks ago, actually, when YouTube decided to, out of the blue, again, reinstate my channel. I had put in appeals over the years and constantly got rejected, saying, your channel will never, ever be put back on YouTube. It's just not happening. Until 3 weeks ago, when they decided, no, in fact, we will give you back your channel. So these are just some of the examples of some of the setbacks I've had over the years. You know, it was actually 10 years ago when, after making documentary films, I decided to move to Vancouver because I was partnering up with somebody who was going to help me build a Press for Truth studio. And we did exactly that. I started going live from the studio. I started having in-studio guests all the time. And that went very, very well for a number of years. I feel like I was a little bit ahead of my time, because if I have something like that now, man, oh man, would I ever be able to crush it. But back then, I had the studio, and then also another setback was that the building that we were using ended up being demolished to make way for a condominium, and that pretty much put an end to the whole PFT studio in Vancouver. But again, I wasn't going to let that set me back. I wasn't going to let the YouTube stuff set me back. You know, I've been doing this for 19 years, and I'm going to continue to do this, hopefully for 19 or 20 more at least. So having said that, guys, I'm now at a point where it's 2025 and I feel like it's crunch time. The world is getting absolutely crazy, and I want to step my game up a notch. I want to take things to a whole nother level. But just like it has always been in the past, I simply can't do that without your help. So very recently, I just launched a Give, Send, Go campaign. And I just want to briefly, I'll just read to you the description that I just wrote there. It says, "Hi there, friends. This is Dan Dicks from Press for Truth. I need your help to make Press for Truth the best it can be. In case you didn't know, I started Press for Truth in 2006, and 19 years of doing Press for Truth has led to many attacks, whether that be in real life, while being surrounded by mobs like Antifa, BLM, feminists, climate activists, or LGBTQ community, or whether that be from institutions who shadow ban me, block me, or cancel me, simply because I go against the status quo and because I'm interested in pressing for truth. And in case you didn't know, I'm also a one-man show. I do all the research. I do the filming, the editing, and the posting. I run everything on the back end, like my website and the 8 various platforms that I upload my videos to. And I handle all the administrative tasks as well. And I've only ever relied on you, the viewers, to continue doing this work, and I really wouldn't want it any other way. With your help, I can better protect myself with bodyguards while covering events, and also by building a team who can help me reach more people than ever before. So if you would like to help grow Press for Truth into something that can truly be a thorn in the side of the powers that ought not be, please consider making a contribution, because again, I simply cannot do this work without you. Together, we can continue to smash that pyramid of control one brick at a time, and we can continue to awaken new hearts and new minds who will help us build a better world for us all. So God bless everyone who contributes, and thank you so much for your support. By the way, if you would like to contribute Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, you can do so here, and I included an image that can be scanned on the screen for people who want to contribute Bitcoin. By the way, there are a lot of Bitcoin whales who are freedom-minded people. A lot of them are like libertarians who really could help someone like me you know, step it up a notch and completely change the game. So if you're watching this and you happen to be one of these Bitcoin whales, which is, in case you're not familiar with that term, somebody who holds a lot of Bitcoin, please consider making a contribution. You know, you are the kind of people who can really help guys like me step up my game. Or if you're watching this and you know some Bitcoin whales, please send them this video and say, this is the kind of guy you guys need to support if you're truly in favor of liberty and freedom. And I know there's a lot of them out there. So anyways, guys, I don't want to bore you with just getting all nostalgic and, you know, kind of reminiscing about, you know, the last 19 years. But today literally marks 19 years to the day of doing Press for Truth. And I'm going to continue, no matter what, doing what I do here at Press for Truth. But again, I do need your support. So if you've been watching over the years, and especially if you have yet to contribute, please consider making a contribution. Obviously, I'm going to continue to put out this information for free. You know, you can continue to consume this information all the time for free. That's never going to change. I feel like this is a public service that I'm, you know, providing to the world. But I also want to let you know that if you appreciate that, I really do need your support. You know what I mean? Like, there are no corporate backing, there is no funding. My gosh, if I had the kind of backing and funding that some other people have in the field of media, I could only imagine where things could be with Press for Truth. But again, this comes down to, you know, my relationship with you, and if you do appreciate my efforts, to please consider making a contribution. But again, you know, either way, I'm going to continue to provide this information for free as best I can. So I am curious if you know, you've been a loyal viewer over the years, when did you start watching Press for Truth? Let me know in the comment section below. What was the video that did it for you and that caused you to continue to want to support my work? I'd be very curious to hear about that, so please let me know in the comment section below how you started watching Press for Truth. And again, I just want to thank everybody who has been supporting me over the years, whether that be through sharing the videos or your contributions or your donations through e-transfers, dan@pressfortruth.ca. People who have signed up for a monthly reoccurring contribution, thank you so much for that. There's you know, many of you who have done that through my website, or people who have just done one-time donations, or again, just simply share my work. I got to thank you guys so much, because it's only because of you guys that I've been able to be here for 19 years, and it's only going to be because of you that I'm going to be able to continue for 19 more. So anyways, guys, that's why I'm kind of celebrating July 4th today. 19 years is a pretty big milestone, and I'm really looking forward to a couple of decades more of this. So I guess we'll leave it at that. Once again, guys, thank you so much to everybody who does contribute. Please check out that Give, Send, Go campaign, or pressfortruth.ca, or you can scan that Bitcoin code that I put on the screen there. Again, any and everything is very greatly appreciated, and it's going to help me do a much better job moving forward. So just wanted to bring that to your attention, guys, today. Once again, please share this video with your friends and family, and that's all. Stay tuned, guys. We're gonna have more video reports coming very soon, God willing. This is Dan Dicks reporting for Press for Truth. We all want truth. The truth will set you free.